As the title states, reading posts in this sub from others who have been in my shoes has been a source of comfort though, and I'd like to post about what happened to me, in case it in any way helps someone else avoid being victimized in the same way. I was approached by a man outside my bank this afternoon who showed me a money order check for $990. He told me it was his daughter's birthday, and because his own account was overdrawn by $500, he asked if I could deposit the money order for him and give him the cash, minus $40 for my troubles. That way, he would have $950 to spend on his daughter instead of the $490 he'd get from depositing it into his own overdrawn account. I should been hearing major alarm bells at this point, but he caught me in a moment when I was slightly in a hurry and on a day I was in a good mood. My only previous experience with money orders was knowing that they are meant to be guaranteed funds. I didn't really question that it could be fake. So I deposited the money order at the ATM into my account, which accepted the funds and withdrew $990. I honestly did feel a slight tingle of doubt as I handed him the wad of cash, but foot in the door syndrome I guess. I looked at him and said I'm choosing to trust you. He thanked me, stated he wasn't the type of person to do that, and offered me $40 back. I declined and told him to keep it for his daughter. He left before me, as I had another check to deposit. The bank is on a busy street in Brooklyn, and as I walked out a few minutes later, I was waved over by a group of women who were selling masks on the sidewalk nearby. As soon as they called to me, my stomach sank, because I understood immediately what had just happened. I felt foolish for taking that leap of faith on a complete stranger. But it's been a rough year for many people, while I have been blessed with stable income throughout the pandemic. I wanted to help. I myself moved to the neighborhood last winter and have encountered many random acts of kindness, and I just wanted to believe that he was telling the truth. Anyway, the ladies told me that guy had been hanging around the bank for weeks and were upset for me when I told them how much I'd given him. They brought me inside the bank to speak with the security guard, even though at this point I didn't have any intention of trying to get the money back. I was visibly upset as I told the security guard what happened, and he was very comforting. After a gentle lecture on not trusting strangers, he told me that ultimately I did what I did out of kindness, and that the universe will return that energy and provide in other ways. I know this is a learning lesson, one that costs some people much more, and that what I lost today is ultimately irreplaceable. Trying to be thankful for that instead of feeling like a gullible idiot. You need to call your bank and ask to speak to their fraud department to let them know this happened, because when it bounces in 2 to 3 days, they are going to assume you are a risk and will likely restrict your account. Calling them first to let them know you made a mistake and will cover the $990 when it returns shows that you are responsible and will help keep your account from getting covered in red flags by their back office team. Also, let them know this will not happen again. I work in bank fraud prevention. Please take my advice. I'm in law enforcement and this happens far too often. If he's still hanging around the bank in the future, have security call the cops so he can be detained and indicted. At least that way you can press charges. $950 is the threshold for felony theft by false pretense, California. I almost fell for a sob story scam a few months back. I was on my way to work and stopped at the local gas station for some drinks. When I was getting back into my car, a guy pulled up next to me in a big truck and asked if I wanted to buy any sound system / projectors. I didn't think anything of it and said no thanks. He asked me again and said everything in his truck is worth over $3,000 and that he would let them go for $500 each. His reason was that he works for a popular movie theater and they cancelled the order, but he couldn't return the equipment, so he wanted to make some of his money back and he needed it all gone that day. I thought he was legit, just in an unfortunate situation, but told him I couldn't afford something like that right then. I got some red flags when he asked how much money I have in my account and how much I would be willing to pay. Wanting him gone and wanting to get to work, I said I'd take it for $100. He was more than happy to let it go for $100. This is when I knew for sure it was either stolen equipment or empty boxes. He started to get aggressive when I said no, tried to convince me I could easily flip it for 3 times the money, etc etc. I got in my car and left. Never heard anything about stolen speakers/projectors. Never saw him again. I hope he didn't get anyone to buy any of the equipment, and I should have called the non-emergency number about him, but it was definitely an interesting situation. When I was a grad student, I was the only American in our small study group. I quickly befriended a colleague from Bangladesh. He told me he just got married and was trying to apply for a visa to bring his wife to the States while he was in school. He reluctantly asked me to borrow $2,000 after knowing me for like a week. He said he had to show bank records proving he was financially stable or his visa application would be denied, so he wanted to show my cash as part of his funds. I was super hesitant, but we both banked at the same institution, so we walked there together Friday afternoon. We completed the transaction. I handed him the cash, and that was it. We didn't even discuss when I'd get it back. After going home, I felt sick. I was making a stipend and broke, and I just gave cash to a stranger with no agreement. All weekend I dwelled on it and how stupid I was. On Monday, he thanked me again and returned every dollar. A few months later, his wife was living with him. They invited me over for an amazing dinner and she gave me a beautiful scarf from her home city as a thank you for my help. So I completely understand where you're coming from. It's a learning experience, for sure. You're a good person, and there's other good people out there. You just need to be more protective of yourself. It could definitely be worse. Just sell a car on Craigslist and you'll get offered twice the value of it by someone sending a money order. You'll get your money back. Then you just send them $500 for shipping and make thousands on your car sale. In all honesty, don't trust anyone hanging out around a bank. Don't talk to them. Don't do anything besides what you are there for. If anything, you could have had him come into the bank with you, and it would have given you a moment more to think about it, or the teller would think something is fishy. Am I the only one host wondering who the hell happens $1,000 on a daughter's birthday? I've told him to spend $100 on her and get out of that debt at the bank. I'm sorry that happened to you. Most people don't realize money orders and cashier checks can be fraudulent. I had something similar happen, and it was for $600 about 10 years ago. Expensive lesson learned. Have friends who work at a grocery store where this is common. They have people getting scammed daily. Those scumbags are very good at what they do. Sorry to hear that, bud. Your story reminds me of my immigrant father who exciting sold $9,000 worth of good from his new business over the 4th of July weekend in 1990s, only to paid in money orders after goods were already loaded. You guessed it, they were fake, which he found out 3 days later as he went to deposit. Shitty part is few weeks later he saw his goods being sold at a flea market. Couldn't do anything about it. One thing I'm glad my parents taught me early was that you never believe strangers who ask you for money with any kind of story. People who seriously need that kind of money wouldn't be approaching strangers in parking lots. Lesson learned. Don't feel bad. Your heart was in the right place. You weren't scammed because of your own greed. That's really rough, man. Especially given current circumstances. Thank you for posting. You might have prevented someone else from getting similarly duped. I don't get it. The ladies have been seeing this happen for weeks and yet chose not to say anything to the bank guard, the bank, or anyone he may approach, like you, and afterward dates you for trusting him and walked you back into the bank to have a security guard console you and say that it was okay and that your kindness would get paid back. Did you not talk to anyone who actually mattered and could help, like the bank reps, bank manager, etc., and let them know you got scammed in front of their bank, that you want to file a report with them and the police? Report the false money order to the FBI. Get a copy of the video footage for the bank to at least print out and put on their window to warn others, or at least have the security keep a lookout, since it seems it's an obvious pattern and that bystanders have been seeing this pattern for weeks without telling anyone. I bet they were in on it too and get a cut for not saying anything. Something's not adding up, and it's not just your bank account. Yup, lesson is, never, ever trust a sob story when told just outside a bank, or ATM or other cash handling machine. I assume $1,000 is, when it becomes a felony or something like that. Maybe $1,000 is the ATM withdrawal limit? $1,000 plus money orders undergo an additional verification process? People elsewhere in this thread are saying $951 plus is a felony in California. Dude offered $40 to make it $950 scammed. I don't know if the fact that op declined $40 means it's a felony. $990 because she technically gave him $40. I'm sorry this happened to you. It's very brave of you to tell this story. Often when people get scammed like this, they keep it to themselves. By sharing your story, you're planting the seed for people here to know what to look out for. Scammers are so smart these days, and it's easier than people think to fall for their evil games. It sucks, but please don't beat yourself up for it. Hey man, as much as this sucks, you're a good person, and don't let what happened to you change how you are as a person. Don't be quick to trust strangers and definitely be more cautious, but don't let it change the kindness in you, because what happened is a reflection on him and not on you. Got scammed when I was in college on a much lesser scale for $40. You do feel like an idiot for trying to be nice and being taken advantage of. But I can say after that I'm constantly aware of it, or I was back in the good old days when I could go places and do things that might lead to meeting fun and interesting people who might want to scam me. Please listen to this. Always give to those who aren't asking. Never ever give money to beggars. Always a scam. Always. Never believe them. Be kind to those that are having a hard time. Never to people asking for money. That reminds me of the time I was in Philly and some woman with a walker comes crying with mascara running down her face saying her boyfriend beat her and kicked her out and she has no money and no place to go. Shoot, I'm too street smart to fall for any of that stuff, but before I say no, my father gives her some cash. She walks up and goes straight to the next person to beg. I'll give her credit for concocting a good story, but I could see she was lying. This is why I refuse to speak to anyone I don't know out in public, especially during these times. Chalk it up as an expensive lesson. I was once approached by a dude in the parking lot of one of those big truck stop gas stations on the highway. He asked if I had any cash as he and his family was trying to make it down south, but didn't have any money. I only had a $20 on me, so I gave it to him. Then I watched him get in his car, without getting gas or anything, and then drive north on a clearly north/south intersection. Lol, WTF. Oh well. I supposed he could have been telling the truth, and needed to go that way for some reason, but I always just figured I got suckered. Sorry to hear about this. It is disheartening to see how your good nature could be taken advantage of by some jerk, and thank you for sharing. I'll make sure never to cash anyone's money order by the ATM or life in general, period. As a heads up too, when I try to sell anything on Craigslist, there are scammers that try to offer to pay you in money orders, checks without printed home addresses, the temporary checks, but they'll drive you past their home to show you where they live, or even with real gold jewelry. All of this is 100% fake. There's no scruples with these fraudsters. But I did get a chuckle when offered real gold jewelry for dog that I was putting up on Craigslist to rehome. That sucks, man. Not a fun lesson to learn. Still, it sounds like you didn't lose the kind of money that will have lasting damage on your lifestyle, so cheers for that. Sometimes you just got to laugh at yourself for being a moron. If it makes you feel any better, I lost $1,300 when I was younger, not to a scam, but to dick brain at a strip club. I basically spent $1,300 I couldn't really afford at the time to get blue balls. Good times. I work in a financial institution and see this often. The scammers like to hang around a major transit center in our county, I think because they figure that people who have to take the bus might be more likely to fall for it in hopes for additional money. The part that floors me, though, is that at least half the time, our customer gets mad at us when we explain that it is a scam and they should not go through with it. Sometimes it is too late because they put the funny check in the ATM and already gave the scammer the money, and then they get angry that we are not just refunding them the money, which we will not do. It frustrates me so much, though, when we, who work with this all day, are telling them from an expert perspective that it's a scam, and they think we are not on their side. One young woman reamed me out because her new boss needed her to use the money from the cashier's checks he had mailed to purchase furniture for the office, and 2 weeks later was back in with her tail between her legs because of course I had been right. Grrrrrrrrrr. Edit to at, I'm very sorry that this happened to you. I realized as I posted that it may have sounded like I was scolding you, which was not my intent at all. I really feel bad that you experienced this and wish the best. You have a kind and generous heart. It sucks what happened, but don't let this man's scam take away from the fact of what you believed in your heart was helping someone. I've been in situations where I had to Venmo or Cashable my friends' money if they withdraw it so I don't pay overdraft fees. It's not a habit, but a favor I needed this one time. So don't beat yourself up. I've lived and Nick and am convinced the scams they come up with out there have a focus group before they implement them because they come up with some crafty fucking cons. Like someone else said, don't let that take away from you helping someone. That security guard was right. That energy and what you did for what this person was claiming doesn't go forgotten in the awesome deed pile. This is why I don't talk to anyone anywhere. An old lady asking for directions on the sidewalk. You know. Go buy a map. Or Google on your phone. A panhandler in the subway? No. And if someone approaches me while I'm in a bank, heading to an ATM, I'd be thinking to myself, if he comes just a little bit closer, I may have to swing. People are scum. Never forget this lesson. Sounds harsh, and I feel horrible that I have to approach life this way, but my sister has been robbed when nobody was around. Family members have been scammed. I use this subreddit for helpful tips and tricks, but I'm far from the most financially savvy person out there. I could easily see myself falling for something like this, just because my impression of money orders is the exact same. Point is, I think you should feel good about what kind heart you have, rather than whatever your emotion you're feeling, because you fell for some trick. Lots of people would fall for the same trick, and you're just unlucky in that sense. However, I don't think many people would have the same kind heart and optimism that you had in that situation. I strive to be more like you. I live in the same city as you, and there are shady characters in Brooklyn. I think you did a nice thing, and it turned out to be from a not so nice person. Don't let it ruin you, because it is just money. Be blessed that you have the money and a job during these tough times. I once loaned a friend a very large sum of money, over $10,000, and never got 1 cent back. I was bummed, but I learned my lesson and I'm reaping the rewards tenfold with a well-paid job. Another thread: a guy got scammed out of thousands from his best friend. Think of how minor your problem seems, haha. But in all honesty, you paid a stupid tax trying to do something nice for someone. Take it as a lesson learned, and don't make the same mistake twice.